Hi, this is Team23. Today we're going to be presenting our Sprint 3, our technical presentation for our Managing Type 2 Diabetes team project. So the first thing we'll talk about today is our architecture background and explanation. So primarily we'll be using an Angular platform for our patient's UI. So it's an interactive web UI that lets patients log in, track diabetes. For the back end, we'll be using a Fire server that holds patient-related data. We'll also be using Spring Boot, which is a Java-based REST service that allows us to interface with a MySQL patient data store, which is a persistent database that we'll host locally. So if we look at our tools and languages, we'll be primarily using Angular, which is a TypeScript-based open source web framework. We'll also be using Spring Boot, which is also Java-based, and Java itself. IntelliJ will be our platform of choice. We'll be using MySQL as the database, and then of course SQL to interact with the MySQL database. And we'll have embedded Tomcat, which is a server. Consists of a single Java web application along with a full Tomcat server distribution. And then these are packaged together and compressed in a single distributable jar. We'll be using Docker, which was given by the TAs as a requirement for this project. So we'll have to make sure that everything that we use will fully operate on that Docker platform. And then the rest of the technologies that we'll use are shown below.
I'm going to talk about the app front end that we're developing for this app. This is a landing page. The user has to log in by providing a password. Once logged in, the user can track the 4 most important things for diabetes: blood glucose levels, diet, physical activity, and weight. Apart from that, we also provide useful information to the user about diabetes and its control. The user can also access a prescription from here. This page is used to track blood glucose levels of the patient. To create a new entry, the user has to select a date and provide the time when the reading was taken. Once the reading is entered, it becomes part of history and is available here in the form of a list of dates and the average readings on those dates. Once a date is selected, the details of that day are displayed here. As a stretch goal, we may also provide a chart of historical values. The user can use this page to track her diet. To create a new entry, the user has to select a date, pick a food item from the list, and enter the portion information. Once saved, the details of the food item are displayed here. We are going to use the glycemic load as a primary metric to track diet. Apart from that, the other information like the energy, the protein content, the fiber content, and the fat content of the food are displayed here if available. At the bottom here, the history of the glycemic load is available in the form of a list of dates. Once a date is picked, the details of that particular day are displayed here in the form of the food item, the portion consumed, and the glycemic load contribution of each of those items. We will also provide a feature to add new food items. We are going to use the total calories burnt as the primary metric for tracking physical activity. For creating a new entry, the user has to select a date and provide information about some predefined activities. For example, the number of steps walked or the number of cycling miles. For any other kind of activity, the total calories burnt can be directly entered. The history is available here. Once a date is selected, the breakup of the total calories burnt on that day are displayed here. This page is used to track the management of weight. We are going to use BMI, that is the body mass index, and the waist to height ratio as a primary metric for tracking obesity. The user has to pick a date to create a new entry and provide the weight and waist measurement. The height of the user is pre-populated from the database. Once the entry is saved, the BMI and the waste to height ratio are displayed here. The history is provided over here in the form of a list. Knowledge of the disease and ways to control it are very important for controlling diabetes. This app will provide useful links on general information on managing diabetes, as well as information about diet and physical activity and their impact on diabetes. So that's all about the front end that we are developing.
So next we'll talk about our deployment pipeline, which is our software management strategy to go all the way from our prototype stage to our production stage. So far in the project, we've been working primarily on the prototype and identify platform stages. That's where most of our efforts have been focused, with the goal to meet the requirements of the user in the production type environment. So as indicated by blue, we have completed a lot of the first two steps there, and we are starting to transition into the develop application and complete test case phases. Once we're complete with that, we'll go into the testing phases, unit test, integration test, acceptance testing, and then prepare to deploy into a production type environment. So as we move to the right in this pipeline, we are increasing our production readiness, and then as we do that, we're getting feedback that can inform our earlier decisions all the way back to the prototype stage. So we also wanted to cover some further research that we completed. At a high level, our research kind of shows that by tracking the glycemic load of a diet and your weight, we can get a really good idea of your blood glucose levels in controlling diabetes. So here's some further details that kind of help establish that, but our app is really centered on tracking those levels, so we want to make sure that that is truly going to give us the result that the customer expects. So I'll let you read these, but it's just further evidence that goes along with our first and second sprint deliverables that shows our approach to giving users valuable feedback that will help them solve their diabetes challenges. So if we look at our project plan, this is an updated version of our description and entrance and exit criteria as it pertains to our activities. So we'll keep this on the screen so that you can look at it for further details, but we won't cover it in too much detail here. And then we have our updated Gantt chart also. You'll see our percent complete. Some of the activities were already completed, such as the use cases. We're nearly finished with identifying the data sources and platforms. I suspect we'll be wrapping that up early this week. We should not have any problem meeting that 3/1 due date. And then we're also starting to jump into some of the underlying test cases with quality, and of course we're continuing to do documentation. And then we're also getting ready to physically actually develop this application that we've been planning. So yeah, I don't see any issue now with meeting our end goal of having a production ready prototype application by the end of this semester. And here's our references, in addition to the references in the first and second deliverables. Thank you.